to another 31 Days of Horror 2020 video. We went with another film off of Netflix. And this isn't a Netflix original. No, this is a 2015 film called Final Girl. It sounded good in the description.
And literally it has been, I'm positive it was on my watch list for years, and I never watched it.
Yeah, so as they say here, a man teaches a young woman how to become a complete weapon, essentially turning her into an assassin. She is later approached by a group of sadistic teens who kill blonde women for unknown reasons.
That's not what it says on Netflix.
No, that's not what it says on Netflix.
Because I would not have put that on my list.
The film is directed by Tyler Shields, a no-name director. Written by Adam Prince, no-name writer. And yet somehow manages to get as our final girl Abigail Breslin, who you know from
Scream Queens, but that was after this.
Yes, but she Little Miss Sunshine, August Osage County.
Hold on.
Signs.
Hold on. Wait. But she was not the Little Miss Sunshine.
No.
Okay.
Zombieland, Double Tap, the new Dirty Dancing, Fear Inc., Maggie. She's in tons of stuff. Her trainer is Wes Bentley. Yes, Wes Bentley. From things like American Beauty or The Hunger Games or Interstellar, blah, 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 blah. Mission Impossible Fall. Yeah, well, a lot of American Horror Story. He was John Lowe. He was from 1984, but we haven't watched that one.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
And then there are... Do I even really care about... The only one I think is anything is Alexander Ludwig, who played the main sadistic teenager boy who was in Vikings, and I knew him from The Hunger Games. He's also in Lone Survivor, Bad Boys for Life. But yeah, that's essentially it, because there's I'm gonna quickly check the other guys. Logan Huffman, has he been in anything? Oh, apparently he was in that V remake that never went anywhere. Okay, so that's where he ended up. Cameron Bright, he was kind of like a nobody in this movie. Thank You for Smoking, Running Scared. Okay. X-Men. Oh, he's Leech in X-Men 3: The Last Stand. Wow. Of all the mutants you could be, you got the crappy one.
He got paid.
Yeah, he got paid. And then there's Reese Thompson. Now, which one was the one that was all... I think it was him, right? Logan Huffman played the guy who was all... whatever. Singing and stuff. Yes, Reese Thompson was Young Beaver in Dreamcatcher. He was also Craig in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Rocket Science. So he's done a bunch of kind of that teenage type thing. So he actually has somewhat of a career too. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to let you go into it. Go for it. You can't?
Because...
You wanted to. You wanted the camera to roll. You wanted to dig into it.
No, because I have thoughts. But the problem when I have thoughts is I will just say the whole movie. Which I'm not allowed to. We need another channel where I just spew.
Okay. Honestly, okay, there isn't much to this. The description of the film is what happens in the film. Right? So, guy trains the girl to be an assassin. Then she ends up going after teenage boys who are trying to kill her. You know, role reversal. And we've got problems from it, right? Like right from the get-go.
So many problems. So many questions. What the hell's going on?
Okay, first off is the opening of the film where, this recruiter is recruiting a young girl whose parents had died. Get that. So we're thinking some kind of a social worker. And so he's testing her and all this kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts on your parents dying? Essentially trying to get an emotional, like what's your emotional state and all this kind of stuff. And doing some intelligence tests. Not a lot of tests, but a few questions. It's just like, you know what, you're perfect. Okay? So she's being recruited if she wants to. Great. She's like, I'm in. Okay. Fast forward to the future,
12 years.
12 years, we skip, we don't see anything. And we get some scenes of... Now, Abigail Breslin, obviously, Abigail wasn't playing this 5-year-old or whatever,
No.
or 6-year-old.
That would have taken a while.
Or 9-year-old. I don't know how old this person was supposed to be. Young. Yeah, so now he's essentially still training her. And we assume has been training her this entire time.
Well, that would be the point, right?
Right? And yet, what do we see the first thing future person is doing? Standing in bare feet on rocks because she may have to be outside in the wilderness or cold or who knows what for a long time without shoes. You need to be ready for this. So this was the first of the hardening of her body. What kind
When
of...
she's like an adult?
She's an adult at this point, essentially. Okay. There's some scenes of some training for about like getting out of holds or fighting. Again, something you probably would have already taught her. Mm-hmm. Now, what I do think they should have concentrated on, I think they should have shown her able to get... See, this is the problem. They don't show her able to do these things. They show her as, I've never done these things before. I don't know what to do. He needs to still show me these things. Yeah, so for 12 years, he hasn't been teaching her anything, essentially. I would assume that what they should have been showing was a physically capable person, and now he's starting to train her in the arts of seduction and how to, lure guys in and all this kind of stuff. Now that she's, a mature person who would be able to do that. A little harder when you're a little girl, unless you're going after pedophiles. And I don't think that was her job. So that would have made more sense to me. But the only thing she really, that kind of harkens on that point is a scene in a bar where she asks a guy to the bathroom. And he goes, okay.
Huh. Not just a guy. A guy who could be her dad, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm watching this like, what? What?
Yes.
What?
Yes. And get this, the trainer, 12 years later, he hasn't aged. He still looks, very young. So, we have problems already. We're like, you haven't seen Hannah, the film Hannah, or even the TV series Hannah?
No.
About a little girl trained by her father to essentially be like an assassin.
Don't ruin it because I haven't seen it. I want to watch it. You can't.
That's the opening sequence. It's.
I didn't see that, so you can't say anything.
So this is a person who's like a lot younger than the character in this film, and she's already clearly able to do things.
Well, yeah.
How is
Here, yeah. I mean, I didn't see that, but yeah, here's the thing. Okay, so she can answer some questions. She can do simple test things, but nothing like physical or anything. But like, oh, you know, really?
I mean,
Why? Were her parents something, and they're like, oh, okay, well, you can do it too. I did.
Yeah, I. And where she's supposed to be part of a program,
There's no freaking program.
right? And there's a comment from the guy about all the money and resources we've put and spent on you, and it's just like,
Low
but it's
budget
just the
motels.
two of you, and there's nobody else, and you're always in empty rooms and in motels. So, huh? What? Where? What?
No, they.
Huh? And then we'll get to, I guess, talk about the time period. We're unclear as to when this is supposed to be taking place.
And this is one of my biggest questions. I need to know what decade, because that explains a whole lot of things, even though it's still not right. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of lends a hand into things.
It helps.
Yeah.
It seems to hint towards being 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I said 50s. I thought 50s.
Ish. You know, they're, and this is, I guess this is a trick in filmmaking where if you try and make it timeless, right? So
But there's things in there that to me are
there are things that
that's
hint
not
towards
timeless.
a certain time period, right?
Yeah.
They've got a diner, but diners exist. We still have old diners from the 50s, operating now, let alone new diners that open to make it look like it's from the 50s. Everybody's dressed up, in suits and tuxes and stuff like that, and wearing suspenders. Kind of timeless, but very much so more past than it would be, now. But the whole idea was they were supposed to be getting dressed up for something special. So, okay. I get it. The diner, people wearing what they're wearing is old-fashioned, but at the same time, they tend to do that in diners to add to the atmosphere. So if you're going to be doing that whole making an old-style diner, you may have wearing old-style, waitress-type clothing. The cars are old cars, like old cars. I don't know that they're
Yeah, I don't
probably
know
be
about that.
I don't know what year but we're talking like 50s to 60s. We're talking more into the muscle car years, and that pushes it. I think that pushes it more to late 50s, 60s, which could still work, but I wouldn't think the whole suits and such would be as much the case. But then the music is older. It harkens to 40s, 50s, not so much 60s. And one of the guys acts like he's a crooner. Like, he thinks he's Frank Sinatra or something, which kind of lends itself to, I guess, that era. Yeah, I'm thinking that the filmmakers wanted to set it in that kind of time period, but at no point did they say it's in that time period. No. And obviously, because this is a low-budget film, they're kind of making do with what they have. Because there are a lot of things that were out of place if this was supposed to be in that time period, right? And that's one of my problems with films trying to do period pieces. It is so hard to do period pieces because the further back you go the less there is available of those things, like houses, clothing, just stuff, furniture. So when you're trying to make a film, if it's a big budget film, no problem. They can go out and source things, build things, recreate things, reproduce things. When it's low budget, you kind of got to make do with what's there.
Ask your friends, you have this?
Exactly, right? So it's like, does anybody have these cars? You know, you may put out an ad in the local newspaper or something like that, being like, we are looking for these types of things. Does anybody in the area have those?
Can we rent it for?
Yeah, can we, or put your name in the credits or whatever, or a lot of places, depending on the size of the town you're in, they'll do it for free simply because you're making a movie, right? So that's how they kind of get around it, but at the same time that it shows when you make a lower budget period piece, because you usually don't do a lot of research and you're kind of going off of what you know. B, you don't have a lot of money to really do things with it, so you make do with what you have, which means a lot of times things show up that really aren't period at all. And C, it's usually the clothing that will really hinder you. Because you can usually set a piece and be like, that house is definitely an old house, or that, like, and go along those lines. There's enough really old buildings, no matter where you go from a certain time period, that you can make it work. Clothing is hard unless you make it, and low budget doesn't make their clothes. They tend to go to the Goodwill. And finding clothes from that period may not be too easy. So I could understand doing the whole gowns and, tuxes and stuff like that, because, okay, yes, if you are really into clothing, you could probably tell which tux was from which period of time. But for the most people, they look at a tux and go, are you wearing suspenders? Okay, that's, something, a certain period in time. Like, it's... And again, same type of thing with dresses, does it, how low is it, how high is it, where does it cut type thing. You might go, okay, if it's showing a lot of cleavage, may not be from the 30s, right? Like, but at the same time, you can get away with things. But yeah, it's so hard to actually tell where this film actually is in terms of time period.
I still say 50s.
So we're going to guess that they're going, we're going to go with the 50s-ish time period, which kind of helps in the aspect because we have these guys who seem to fairly regularly pick up an individual girl and take her to the forest.
Wow.
Well, they say they're, going somewhere special. Which, okay. Yeah, I get it. Nowadays, it still might happen, but you'd probably be a little weary of getting into a car with 4 guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you do that today, you're... what the hell is wrong with you? No.
That you don't know.
You don't know any of them.
You don't really know them.
Any of them.
You may know of them or whatever because maybe they go to your school or whatever. And just going to a place that's special that no other, obviously none of your other friends have talked about, but they're going there, so whatever, and going off, and then clearly eventually ending up killed. And that's
why they weren't talking about it.
That's why nobody's talking about it. And this thing does make it seem like it's small town. Like, it does seem like small town, USA, Canada, whatever. Which, when you hear how many people they've killed, makes you go, wait a minute. and girls are still just, getting into car with 4 guys and going places. Like, why are they even out at night? Because these guys aren't that old. So in the course of like maybe a few years, a lot of people from this town are missing.
Which is not realistic, because
I mean, a lot.
like oh my god.
Put it into true crimes perspectives.
Yes. This is why it's so unrealistic, because I know so many, way too many true crime stories, and it's like you got a few people going up missing, especially if it was in that time period. You're kind of going on lockdown during the night in the first place. Like, that's what they did, right? It's like, no, that's it, curfew, right? That's not happening. So that's a little odd, right? Whether it was 40s, 50s, or 60s, still that would happen. Didn't happen. Not right. And I just... Also, the demeanor of the girls, if it would be out there.
This is the thing.
It would be out there.
If it was 1 or 2 or 3, it's missing. Who knows? They ran away. You could always use which would often happen. The first one, she ran away. Mm-hmm. Right? Second one, may have run away. May have gone off with her boyfriend. Blah blah blah. May have who the heck knows, right? But when I say there's a lot,
it's a lot.
Like,
and in a small town, everybody would know about this. So the actions of the young ladies are just appalling. I don't understand that at all. Even at that time, maybe even more so at the time. Like, it doesn't make sense.
There's a lot about it that doesn't make sense, considering. Put it this way: if it was not just women, but women and men, several graduating classes didn't have any graduates. We're talking a lot of women. So
and the other thing,
there is no queen at the prom because they're all dead.
There's no prom.
There's no prom. There's no dates.
But the other thing is, and this is me just thinking about it like in a crime perspective, they would have started going back and investigating, and it all seems to take place at this diner. So you think they'd be questioning people who work at this diner, and they'd be like, oh yeah, there's this one guy that comes in all the time, like, hello.
Yeah, I've seen all of these ladies. They seem to have left with these guys every time.
They might set up like a sting operation or something. Like, what's going on?
I don't think they would have needed to. They would have gotten to the 5th person, and the person working there would have been like, yeah, she left with those guys.
No, but that's what I mean. They'd be waiting.
And it would have been like, okay, they would have arrested him up and put him to the death penalty. That would have been it. Ugh. But yeah, okay. So that's our second problem.
We have too many problems. This video is going to be 10 hours.
Our third problem. So we have this girl who's being trained. For what exactly? Because I get it if there was a whole bunch of, like, if this was a program and they were going to be putting out thousands of women all over the United States because there was an epidemic of women going missing. And this was their way to be able to solve that, was to, for decades, train little girls up till they were like young women, so that they could be put out there to find these, killers, because they're all going after young women. But that's not the case here. They clearly target these guys because they already know what's going on. And yet, they send the girl
by herself
to not arrest them.
No.
To kill them.
But the program doesn't. It's not even like the police, right? It's
No.
Like, it's like a private thing.
It's
so
just some. You have to assume because of the money and the resources, it has to be some kind of government agency because he's like a social worker of sorts who brings little girls and trains them into assassins. So, why was she needed? Why didn't they just kill them?
Why couldn't he just go?
Exactly. Why didn't he just be like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, those four are done with.
Get the police involved or something, Like, if you know who's doing it, hello.
Exactly. If you know that it's happening.
It's not a mystery.
It's not a mystery. Had it, like I said, been a situation where they were sending these girls out and they didn't know who was doing these things.
Yeah,
Eventually they managed to find them. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, just, put them out there. Oh, okay, somebody's getting interested.
Yeah, some of them would maybe never end up running into them. Mm-hmm. Right? Some may just end up in, with abusive people and they would set them straight. Others may run into the people who are killing them. And they do their job, right? But not in this film. That doesn't seem to be it, because there's only one guy training and one girl being trained, as far as we can tell. Because every time they're together, they're the only two, and there's big rooms, and they're still all the only two, and there's facilities, and they're still the only two.
Yeah, it's some program.
It's some program spending tons of money, but we just don't see it. And again, they already know about these four guys, clearly by the way it's portrayed in the film. Us as viewers obviously know, but they as participants clearly already know. Mm-hmm. So, why? Now don't get me wrong, the whole kind of backstory premise of, misogynistic men or killers of young women or something like that, getting their comeuppance when they come in, they try and do it, and that person happens to be an assassin or trained in something, anything, would be kind of cool, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah,
but she's specifically trained to hunt people like them, specifically. But how? If you already know, then why the whole charade? Like, what is the whole purpose? When the whole end outcome that you want is you having the girl kill the guy, or guys, then why not just kill the guys? Why spend decades and money and going through all this kind of stuff when you already know who they are, and you just, why create a Terminator robot female thing to go kill these guys? Yeah.
The idea was alright.
Yeah, when you read it on the Netflix and you're like, oh, that might be interesting.
However, this was on, it was 2015 movie, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. Well, this was probably on my list since then. And I did not watch it till now. So.
Mm. Yeah. Shot in Canada.
Oh my God. Well, if I had known that.
Shot out in BC. Which explains the forest. Yeah, I don't get the cinematographer. I don't know. I could look him up, but very interesting choices in this film. I get some of the lighting were supposed to make it kind of look. I'm gonna say David Lynchian, though that's not really quite. It just sort of looked abstract, right? Like single light on people at the table, right? Right? There's a mom and a son having dinner at dinner table, and they're just both of them are single lit on them, so the rest of it is kind of in shadow. And this is happens
I was okay with
multiple
that.
times. And it's like, okay, those are interesting choices.
It's just the woods.
And then you get into the woods and they're doing the same thing. And it's like...
I literally said, can I say that?
What, yeah?
I literally said, this is like somebody has a spotlight like right here in the middle of the forest. Like, what?
Yeah, she's like, I think that's supposed to be the moon, but...
Yeah.
Huh? It looks like somebody just has a spotlight. And I was like, yeah, considering it's on the horizon in the middle of the night. It's essentially like, you know when you have a car pull up in the to the woods and the headlights are beaming out through the thing and everybody's, it's that big orange light. That's kind of what it was like. But there's no cars.
No, I
and it's like, okay, so that's like, well, that's because it was a single thing,
yeah,
but
right,
that's
what I pictured.
That's the shot, right? Like when a car pulls up, that's the direction the light's coming from, right? But it would only be moonlight, and the moon wouldn't be over there. No. It would be up there. Yeah. Which brings you to these other shots, which all seem to be like, what's the Fire in the Sky? You know, Fire in the Sky, the alien abduction movie, where the guy's going through the forest and then the boom. you get the alien beam of light comes down and he goes, what? And then it sucks him up. Every single scene is almost like that, where it's like two people get into the woods and then they end up in a boom. this cone of light coming down, straight down on top of them. And you're just like, wow. There are so many perfectly round circular cutouts in this tree canopy that are just, and the moon just happens to be over top of everybody. Yeah. So yeah, there were some very interesting choices by the cinematographer and the lighting. Again, those are more artistic choices.
I don't care about artistic, but that bothered me.
Yeah, it didn't work for me either. Yeah, because there's just some really, some nice shots. Don't get me wrong. There's some nice shots, but I don't know what the aesthetic they were going for was, because it's just kind of all over. Like there's some perfectly like everything's lit shots. There's shots where it's, shadowy silhouette type shots and then there's just shots where it's like individual light sources on people, and you're like, this is very interesting, kind of arty in a way, like somebody's just trying to be artistic with their choices without really giving any thought to why they were doing it.
I never thought it was arty.
No. I thought it was Peter or Marty or something like that.
That was stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah.
So you're just looking at it as a realism type.
I'm looking at it. I'm watching a movie. Hello, I know what it should look like.
But yeah, I think we've been going on for quite a while. You can pretty much tell what we think about this film.
Oh God.
Hey, would you recommend it?
No.
Wow, this movie, wow. I don't know.
I give it, I feel like all my ratings are so low. I'm kind of, I'm like 1.5 to 2.
Wow, you're kind of high.
No, but I'm leaning more towards the 1.5.
Good tonight. Yeah, because I'm down at the 1. I'm down at the 1.
Maybe it's because I'm a woman and
You're feeling her.
I really did want her to get back at them and stuff like that, and so.
This is the thing. She wasn't getting back at them. She was an assassin. She was going out to just kill them, right?
I didn't feel like she was an actual assassin.
No, you don't.
No.
If you know her, like when I say the name, and you picture her, do you go, oh,
it's probably,
she looks like somebody who would take somebody out?
No, it's probably because and this is why I had the problem in the beginning, because I just keep thinking of her from Spring Queens, right? So to me, in my head, oh, you go girl, look, do some stuff. Because I know, I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, 1.5. I'm doing 1.5.
1.5.
But a not recommend.
Not recommend. I'm doing a 1 on this one. It fails in so many areas.
But it was way more entertaining than like 10 million of your piles. Okay.
Maybe to you, but not to me. I've seen film. This is a film that I could easily see playing at Toronto After Dark. Because of the Canadian, it would get into probably fall into the line as Canadian film, having Canadian content, so it ends up in one of those slots. And
I would have been really disappointed if I went to see that.
Well, this is the thing. It's the kind of film where I really, really, really would like to see a Q&A after. Just so I kind of have an idea. Because sometimes you don't see it like you like we did. We go into this, we're just expecting a movie, right? But sometimes you hear some of the stuff behind it and go, this is what we were going for. This is why we did this. This is, and when you start looking back, you go, oh.
I don't think you
Oh, okay.
done
That kind of, I don't think you really pulled it off, but I have a little bit more respect or input, like more thoughts about what was happening. Just like the time period thing, right? Like they may have said, somebody might have said,
yes.
Were you trying to set this in a certain time period? And
I would have had my hand up right away.
They might have gone, well, yes and no, was probably because that's all what they always say. Yeah, we kind of wanted to give it a kind of a, because I really like that time period, is usually what comes out, right? Like, oh, I love it. I'm like, if you looked at my CD collection right now, it's all Frank Sinatra and whatever. And they'd be like, oh, I just love that. So I wanted to implement, put that into the film. Yeah, when you get something that's so mishmashy like this, it often has, because there's so much influence. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this. Whether it had any, reason to be in the film or not, they just wanted to do it. So I would like to have seen, maybe a Q&A. Not to say I would have gotten any answers or been able to figure this film out any better, but
I never ask anything at those things.
No, I don't.
I would have asked.
I don't either. But
my hand would have been up. You would have been like, "What are you doing?"
No, I would have been like, "Yeah, you go for it. Here's a list."
Can I just come up to the front right now?
I've got a lot of questions.
Come see me after.
Yeah, that'd be one of those things where, like, if you have any further questions, we'll be at the bar, and you'll be like,
I'll buy you a drink.
Drunk.
Let's go.
I'm getting drunk tonight because we are talking for a long time. But yeah, we've gone on long enough on this train wreck. But yeah, sorry if you saw this movie before you watched our video, and you.
They don't care. This video is way more entertaining.
Well, that's the thing. I hope you found somebody who's on the same page, and you don't feel lost out there anymore after having seen this film and wondering what happened. Because it's kind of how we feel. Like, what did we just do? Why? Oh. Oh well. What are you gonna do? We've got to find another good one. What is it? Hubie Halloween is what our high point this season.
Very good. I would watch it again.
So.
Before Halloween. So. Yeah. I probably will.
Anyways, comment down below if you've seen Final Girl, not The Final Girls or The Final Girl or Final Girls, just Final Girl from 2015, with Abigail Breslin as the main character. So, yeah, let us know what you thought of it. Did it leave you puzzled? You know where to put it. Thanks for watching. Until next video, take care. Have a good one.